Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Robert de Bruin. I'd like to welcome you at the Gemeente Amsterdam and this demo first day. As you have seen in the invitation, the presentation will be in English. But before we begin, I would like to talk a bit about the subject. But before we do that, a small introduction in what we are doing here.
Wat is dit weer voor gekkigheid? Zo, dat is het.
As you can see, we are trying out new ways to engage our public with the demo first days that we are doing. Because of COVID, we are doing things through Microsoft Teams, and some people are already seeing these faces 8 hours a day after one meeting after the other. So we are doing things differently now with a virtual studio, and hopefully you enjoyed the music and our introduction. Today we will be talking about digital twins, and this is a very interesting subject when we're experimenting with this. And more to talk about this, we have invited some colleagues from the Amsterdam Smart City Initiative. And I would like to give the first word to Leonie van der Beuken, who is the program director at Amsterdam Smart City. Leonie.
Well, thank you so much, and welcome to you all. And what a great intro, Robert, it indeed was. I was really enjoying the music, and I got a bit, what to say, melancholic when I saw the video, people shaking hands. I'm so looking forward to the day we can shake hands again and have a great hug. Well, these times will come again, but in the meantime, we will totally benefit from the upside of COVID, and that is what we are doing today. Because a long time we are doing data dilemmas together with the data lab of the city of Amsterdam. But due to COVID, we needed to go online, and thanks to COVID, we are doing it online internationally. So we have this great exchange of knowledge now internationally 2 times already about the COVID tracking apps, and these were really great exchanges between countries and cities. And today it's going to be an exchange of knowledge on the topic of digital twins, which is also very internationally important. And we all know, everyone here knows that normally when you share stuff, it gets less, at least for you. Well, with knowledge, it's totally the opposite. When you share knowledge, it multiplies for everyone inside. So I wish you all a very great afternoon again, sharing this knowledge. Then one of 2 practicalities, Robert already mentioned. We are recording this. If you don't feel comfortable, shut off your camera and enjoy. Even so, now I have an echo with my name. That's a bit difficult. It's gone already. And we had in our program 2 times mentioned, maybe you saw only the first one. We have this program has 2 parts. One is the knowledge sharing till 5 o'clock. And then after that, we have a Q&A session moderated by Cornelia Dinka, one of our colleagues. So please stay with us till the end. If you need to go out before, that's fine, of course, too. Let me share some short info about us, Amsterdam Smart City, and why we are doing this. Now I hope it's working. Something strange happens. Do you see my slides? Great.
Yes.
Great. I didn't see them myself anymore, but now I do. So this is us, Amsterdam Smart City, together with the Data Lab Amsterdam. And we're going to talk today about, again, data dilemmas. This was always what we do. So also today, we're not going into the depth of technical issues around digital twins. We're going to go to the dilemmas around digital twins, and what do we know and how can we surf around these dilemmas. And we, Amsterdam Smart City, what are we? We are this innovation platform already existing for almost 12 years now. And we bring together people like you, innovative companies, institutions, even citizens, whoever wants to shape the city of the future. And we do this by this public-private partnership. So from all sorts of organizations connected within this region, but also connected worldwide on our very new, improved platform. If you don't know our platform, please join and go over there. There's really great knowledge to share and to find. And we're called Amsterdam Smart City, but we're not about Amsterdam anymore. We started like that, but now 12 years later, we're about, well, the region and the world. And it's not about smart, it's only about using smart techniques in order to create wise, livable, green, funny, thriving, healthy cities. And we focus on 4 transitions which we want to accelerate with the use of smart city techniques. You can read them. It's energy, circularity, mobility, and a digital revolution. So whatever we do, it's designed to improve these transitions in order to have this livable city. And what for us is very important within the smart city domain, sometimes it gets a lot about, well, we use smart techniques and then we get some more convenience. For us, that's not enough. We want far more. We want to create public value, so that's why values are at place. For us, it's always about citizen central, be it the citizen, but also the visitor, the tourist, the entrepreneur, the co-worker. Whatever we do with smart techniques, it should be adoptable and understandable, affordable by people. And the way we work is open and transparent, like today. You share your dilemmas, you share your knowledge, so we can build upon each other and speed up the innovation, because climate change needs us to speed up. And we have this very learning by doing approach. So we work towards 2050 maybe, but we try to have facts on the ground now. And whenever something goes wrong, we improve and we help each other. Now to today's program. And we're ahead of time, so that's great. We're going to take you through, like I said, 3 presentations, and after that, during the presentations, I will be the only one allowed to ask questions. Very pity for you, so you have to wait till 5 o'clock. And then please do not wait with your questions, put them in the chat. Cornelia and Nancy will be reading them, sorting them out, so we have this great Q&A later, and I hope we can take it a bit longer than 17:15 and have this interaction. And at the end, we'll have a takeaway and end the program. And with this lineup, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Like I said, it's not about the technique in digital twins, it's about the dilemmas we encounter. So Eric Johnson, who's a geodata strategist from Sweden, will take us through what he's doing with Gothenburg, the present they have for the city. And his dilemma is this really solving a problem, or is it solution stuff looking for problems to do? So how can we make it worthwhile? And Walter Lohman, we go back a long time, we learned just do it this afternoon. And Paolo Pilecci from TNO will take us through their experiences they had with digital twins, but mostly about, again, like we said, also people. How do we get all these data, all this information we have, how do we get it understandable for people? And Wietse from the City of Amsterdam, we had maybe a year and a half ago in a data dilemma session also, will take us to the governance of smart of digital twins. So what can be used and how do we arrange in a wise way all these cooperating parties? So again, all of who you are present here, I believe, will have a strong feeling about the use we can have with digital twinning. You can have all these techniques and making the future sort of predictable, foreseeable, really on your screen. So you can take some measures and instruments before to implement it really on the street. But how can we have this meaningful interaction of virtual digital cities with the real ones on the street? And also thanks to the WAG who initiated Socrates. I believe you're present with us, who initiated this talk, because you have yourself also some ideas of how is it working and where are the shortfalls. So with that, I'm gonna end my introduction. I'm gonna look to my team. Did I forget anything? No, they share no. Sometimes I do forget, and like I said, we're a platform about cooperation, and we do so as a team as well. So nobody's perfect, so we help each other out. Let's go to the first presentation. If all is correct, Eric, you will be sharing your screen by yourself, which means you'll not be able to see the audience. I hope that's not a problem for you. Eric, you're working on this present for the city. Within a couple of years, Gothenburg will turn their 400th anniversary, and you're working towards a nice present for the city, this digital Gothenburg, which will help you to create a livable city. Please take us with you, your findings, your works, and your questions. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Leonie, and thanks for inviting us to this interesting session about digital twins. I'll first share my screen here. I have to say if it works. One moment, please. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, Eric, your screen is visible.
Okay, fine,
And,
thank you.
But while I still have the, and you're still at below visible for everyone. down at the gallery, so we can also see your face, which is really nice.
Yeah.
To have some sort of human contact.
Yeah, I hope so.
Please go.
Okay. Thanks very much. My name is Frankson, and I'm a geodata strategist at the city of Gothenburg, urban planning department in Gothenburg, Sweden. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our work with our digital twin, which we call Virtual Gothenburg. I have 30 slides here, but I think I'm going to manage it in 30 minutes. I hope so. Otherwise, you have to tell me that it's not working. I have to start with the societal challenges that we're standing for. The climate change, of course, and the ongoing pandemic. In the society, the integration in the society or disintegration of the society. Transport needs, future transport needs, and future urban planning, and of course the rising amount of data in the society. In Gothenburg, Sweden, the second largest city in Sweden, we have a huge urban planning project called River City with approximately 25,000 new residents and 45,000 new workplaces. So it's a huge city core urban project. And we also think about the future of urban planning, about creating a resilient and flexible urban environment. And we don't know how the city is going to look like in 20 years with new energy solutions, new ways of meeting, and so on. But how do we face these challenges in the future? One way is we think, to create a digital twin of the city. And the first version of the twin will be ready in the end of next year, 2021. Actually, the same year that we celebrate the 400 years anniversary of the city. So you're very much welcome to Gothenburg if we are all healthy then. We have lots of investments in the region concerning digital twins. We have Digital Twin City Center at Chalmers University, and we have called Virtual Gothenburg Lab at the Lindholmen Science Park, and of course our own Virtual Gothenburg Digital Twin project. So it's a lot of happening in this area. But first, what is a digital twin for us? It's just not the replica of a copy of the visual reality. It's also, of course, information that we connect to the geography or the 3D model. We also can talk about 3 or 4 dimensions in the digital twin. First of all, we have the present information about the city that we can use to understand the city. And then we have real-time data, what's happening in the city right now, traffic and so on, the air quality. And we have simulated data, actually the data we work in urban planning we use to predict, make scenarios of the future of the city. But we can also talk about timeless data that we can use to perhaps experience the city, the history, the present and the future. Why a digital twin? We can compare it with the manufacturing industry, like making a car involves multiple disciplines with different knowledge. They're all involved in the process of making this car. And if we do the same thing in urban planning, like traffic, architecture, energy solutions, and so on, that we can crash test our urban plans, I think that would be a very interesting way to look at it. The benefits, there are many, of course, multidisciplinary methods, smart city, sharp analysis, decision support, transparency, democracy, innovation, and so on and so on. We will base the digital twin on data, of course, and we are working on an information model called SIM, City Information Model, based on CityGML that we can use to a structure for the physical environment, data describing the physical environment. And then we can have the Virtual Gothenburg as a tool to look into that information and make analysis on that information and distribute the data within our, we call it City Information Platform to and within the city, like open data. We think that the virtual Gothenburg will serve all processes in the city, from city development, urban planning, to business and labor, health, safety, education, and so on. But what is virtual Gothenburg? It's a 700 square kilometers digital twin area, so we're quite a huge area that we're looking into. We will use a fully automated process from our present geodata in our databases through different tools, and then through gaming engines to one digital twin that we can connect to data or other applications. We work parametrically when we build a city, like this example when a building, and we can use different parameters to describe the buildings. And where are we now in 2020, the end of this year? This is a wonderful summer photo of Gothenburg, but when we describe it in a digital twin, it looks like this. We have the different objects, the streets and the trees and buildings and so on from our geodatabases, and put into the gaming engine. We, in this case, we use Unreal Engine to simulate and make it virtual and make it realistic. So this is actually a project concerning flooding that we have used the model. Where are we now? We are making Alpha 1, we call it, and you can see the picture. We have the buildings and different roofs and different simple textures. We have a lot of work to do next year, of course. But this process is automated, so the first step is finished. And another example of the model. And finally, some examples of how we can use the digital twin. Of course, in urban planning projects, this is urban planning projects in the harbor area called Masthuggskajen. And of course, we have also a historic digital twin. We have made the 17th century virtual Gothenburg as a digital twin as well. So the digital twin, of course, can be history, present, and the future. And finally, this example of flooding. Perhaps I have some minutes to show a short video. Is that okay?
I was muted. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, good. See, I can find the movie here. Hope I can start it. And this is, you could say, analysis modeling of a 100-year rainfall. It's like a rainfall that comes 1 in 100 years, very heavy rain in short time in a delimited area. And in the central Gothenburg, how does the city look like when we have this kind of rainfall, and what happens? We start simulating with the rain, and we have made this kind of hydro analysis to predict and model how the rain poured down the street. And in a while, you can see here the water level rises to about 1 or 2 decimeters. And it's kind of flooding. It's much power in the water, so objects like chairs and perhaps even cars can be moved by the water. So this is a very powerful way to use visualization and virtual reality to explain problems in the city, what can happen when this kind of rain comes. I think I stop there. I think you get the idea. And I'm stop sharing my screen. A moment. It's locked. Perhaps you can take the screen off. So, thank you. That was my presentation. I think I held it under 10 minutes or perhaps
you
10
did
minutes.
perfect. Exactly 10 minutes to be sure. And we ended with these drowning electrical cars. Also I saw these drowning batteries. But, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's great, and it was very lovely. Not only to understand the present, foresee the future, but even visualize where we come from, the history of the city, why is the city how it is. I was just one question, because you also said it was a huge area you're modeling. So are you also able to model mobility flows, some mobility changes at one area of the city, and the effects on that on the other area? Or does the program does not fit that yet?
Yeah, it's a very huge area, but we're going to use our geodata that's our databases that we collect. So the land use data and the streets we already have. So and we use this kind of parametric models to reconstruct or build the data in the virtual model. So I think we will manage it. The city will not look like the exact reality, but very close, or so close that you can use it for get a picture of what it looks like, and so that you can make analysis and modeling in the streets and so on. So I think it will be enough, but of course we have perhaps 5 years left before we have this kind of model in the whole municipality, all areas with high level of detail. So, but we'll have the first version in next year, I hope.
And then, and you think you're going to feel comfortable enough with the model to take huge policy decisions on the outcome of the model? Will the model, let's say differently, in the Netherlands we noticed we have all these models on COVID, how will it spread? And the model is based on assumption how people will act. And there were some wrongs in the assumption of how we will act. So some out predictions of the models did not work as well. So now back to the digital twins of cities. Do you feel you will, in a couple of next years to come, you will feel comfortable enough on the assumption the model has that it will be a prediction and an advice of the model you're trusting to build on?
Yes, perhaps that depends on what you're going to use the model for. Is it enough, or does it fill our needs? For our basic need, like visualization of architecture and so on, I think it will fill our needs. But if you come to the needs of creating a reality similar to reality environment, perhaps some would say this is not Gothenburg. It doesn't look like Gothenburg, but I think it will be enough. But it's about what are we going to use it for. I thought we were going to see new applications every day, and new benefits and new needs every day. So it's the future will tell us, I think. Yeah.
Okay, great. And to finalize, I see Paolo already nodding a lot, and we're almost there at you, Paolo. Last question for you, Eric, and it's for the audience who will chip in later. What dilemma or question would you like to post to the audience, and have, because they're going to ask you questions as well, but they might be able to serve you with some answers. So what would you like them to ask? And Paolo and the other speakers, think ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, I think dilemma is perhaps a little negative word, but what's interesting is the data. It's not about visualization or other things. It's about the data, that we can have a structure storing our data in a smart way, information models and so on, that we can use to connect data with each other, so we can create new analysis and so on. So if we don't have a structure for the data, like in this city information model, we can't do anything. So perhaps not a dilemma, but we work a lot with data structures and standards, CityGML and other Swedish standards, so we can have a basic foundation for the digital twin to be built on. So
it's about data storage and use.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll get back to you later. And now we move on to, and thank you very much, to TNO. The headline of your company is Innovation for Life. So again, innovation designated not for as a means in itself, but for to create a better world for us all, I believe. And Walter already mentioned, I have a long history with urban strategy. I was then head of environmental and spatial issues of the Port of Amsterdam. And I really wanted to procure this urban strategy system of yours, because it was helping me to predict and to have better understanding of what to do in order to minimize our environmental effect on the surroundings. But we didn't ever succeeded to procure because we had too many obstacles to implement it really. So I'm very curious where you are now. Maybe we were too early. I hope it's been, because it was really great. But I'm going to learn from you now. So where are you now? And which are obstacles and dilemmas you encounter now? Paolo and Walter, the floor is yours. Thank you so much already.
Thank you, Leonie, and good afternoon to everyone. I just want to check, can everybody see the presentation in full screen?
I can.
It's shared, okay, good. Thank you. So today I'm going to introduce you to digital twinning at TNO, but give you a slightly tailored view of the topic at hand, which is digital twin of the city and a data-related dilemma. So I've called this short talk Taking Care of Twins, because if there's one thing you remember by the end of this is that we tend to forget or neglect the importance of looking after our digital twin too, right? We are easily and understandably so distracted by the promise of what the value this digital twin can bring us for the real world twin, that we tend to forget the lifecycle management and governance of the digital twin itself. But first, for those of you who are unfamiliar with TNO, we are an independent Dutch applied science research organization with well over 3,000 domain experts spread across 9 expertise units. We develop, apply, and transfer knowledge to help deliver smart, innovative solutions for or with our clients and or partners to make an impact in the Dutch society. And we have many locations throughout the Netherlands and a few international offices. I'm in the ICT unit, specifically the Monitoring and Control Services Department, where we operationalize IT solutions for the fast-paced, ever-changing, complex or ever-complex world, and concern ourselves with dynamic application continuity. So you can think of architectures and tools in adaptive and scalable IT infrastructures, easy and effective system integration, and business continuity and decision support using IT. Walter, who will do the second live part of our talk, the live demo, is my colleague in the Sustainable Urban Mobility and Safety Group of our Traffic and Transport Unit. So I'm responsible for the ICT program called Reliable Digital Twins that has 2 main goals: making the digital twin, 1, more affordable, and 2, more effective. So on affordability, currently the digital twin is a big customization effort, and we see this across the board in all domains and quite often across domains. This makes them costly to develop, build, and maintain, and our goal here is to develop generic IT for the digital twin lifecycle that will lead to a less expensive solution and that can be realized faster. Secondly, as I mentioned before, the real world is fast-paced and ever-changing. So the digital twin needs to be flexible and interoperable to be able to deliver the value consistently well. This program therefore focuses on the key lifecycle technology for the digital twin to develop, build, deploy, interoperate, maintain, and dispose of the twin itself. Now, on the topic of data dilemmas, there are many to choose from. So I'd like to draw our attention today to how we as humans make sense of it all, right? Since we're already quite familiar with big data challenges, especially in this age where advances in AI are spreading like a wildfire. So I've listed 3 questions, starting with how do we use the data, right? Apart from the actual ways we use the data, we see topics like data privacy and security, the data sovereignty concerns, right? That they need to follow the law, but the law is changing. Will our systems be able to adapt? And I don't know if that's the right question. I think it's going to have to adapt. The question is, how are we going to ensure that it adapts with these crucial aspects? Then, since we use the data, do we trust the data? How manageable can we make this storm of data and models so that we can understand the whys and the hows of the result we will use to make our decisions? And ultimately, how do we make data manageable for different users? I've listed a few kinds of users that develop, use, apply, etc., the same data and the systems, which are the digital twins. They all form part of an operational business process themselves. So we also have to think of this, the people in the process, when we develop the IT solution. And then there's this big question of what about the future users? How are we going to prepare for the future users, but also the future uses, which aren't always known? So you have to think of that flexibility. I've given a lot of questions here, and sadly, I'm going to have to leave you with this cliffhanger as my time is up. But if you are interested to dive deeper or discuss a specific challenge opportunity to do something innovative together, then please do get in touch. But now it's time for the fun part of our live demo by Walter. Walter, the screen is yours.
Okay, I will share my screen. Thank you, Leonie, for being part of this roadshow. So much for the road. We are at home. Can you see my screen currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, Walter.
Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the dilemmas to start off was to whether or not we would show you a live demo of the state of the art that we are currently working on that has some risk in it that it might not work. But what I would like to do is to show you our interactive streaming platform called the Urban Strategy that we are currently working on for the past 15 years at TNO in order to derive the digital twin for a city. And of course, a digital city, a digital twin is not only about the data, but it's where it starts. What I will do is if you look at this map of Amsterdam, you can see that if we collect data for the city of Amsterdam, we have an underlying map, and we can overlay the data with all kinds of data collected. These are buildings that are in the city and has all kinds of metadata on there. How many people work there or live there or whatever, and we can bring that all to the map. We have the road infrastructure, in fact, lots of data. But it's not only data. The digital twin also relies on the 3 pillars: data, analytics, and visualization. So if you bring data together, you must be able to visualize it, and I chose now to show it on a 2D map. But as with the presentation for Gothenburg, you can also see that you can bring in the data real life, realistic in 3D. But then again, you still need to understand what this data can mean for you. What can you actually do with it if you collect it? And that's what I want to show you. We bring all this data of the city together, as I showed, the roads and stuff like that. But then you can also say, what does this data mean if you predict air quality? We are now looking at the air quality map of Amsterdam, but you can also see noise pollution, or you can see where traffic has a high density or lower density in the cities, or where there is a problem. And what we really need is that if we want to sort of make the world better, then you need to play around with this data. So what we did with our tool is that we give users control of their data. So we put in controls. And the next thing is, in order to do something, to try something with your data, you also need to have a reference. So we have the active scenario and a reference scenario, and we can also see differences. What is the use? Well, okay, let's, for example, if we have a closure of a road, we just close a road, and then lots of things happen. Because of the road closure, there cannot be any car on the road, and actually the analytics should deal with the data change and then calculate for every domain that we have the changes in the data. So when this road is closed, you will see hopefully that the that there will not be able to have any cars there. But if there are no cars, then you also get the effect that it has its influence on air pollution as well. Let's see if it works. Yes. We were looking at the cars. If a close observer could see that there is now no more cars at the north side of the road. We closed down this whole city. But if we then look at the air pollution for the predictive part and we take the difference with the scenario, you see that it in fact got all green. And that's a bit of a part of a real dilemma, that you have not only to collect all the data for the city, but you have also to tie this data into analytical models in order to change your data into information. Information is the thing that we need at the governance, at the city level, to make some nice decisions to make a city livable. And then you get the integral part. Everything that you collect is tied to each other. So what we try to bring across is that we have a platform that you tie everything together, but not only that, you can play with your data space, and at the same time, the system will take you into what it means for the other domains in the city. I think my time is about up. I would like to leave it here. Yeah. If there are more questions, I can always answer more questions.
Great, thank you so much, Paolo and Walter, for sharing these insights, and already working 15 years now at these programs. So it's about affordability, about adaptability, what Paolo said, and lots of hows. I hope someone will put in the chat some sort of an answer. And Walter, with you again, it struck me like with Eric, how do you make strong decisions? Having the data will not mean you understand the data and will be able to have a sound advice based on the data before you can make this decision, you said. The question for both of you is, so lots of data tied together, you also said, Walter. Can you really trust the data over time when you have gained one part, you're gaining the second part, and then there will be data obsolete? So this complexity, how do you see this complexity?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Thank you for that. Yeah, the problem is always with data that it is as good as the data is. And if you use that for analytics to get information, garbage in, garbage out is a most frequent called phrase. But the new thing is with these systems, and that's why we at TNO work with these high-speed data platforms, is that we now are also able to incorporate real-time data, measurement data, sensor data, and stuff like that. And that's really a new era, because then you have not only your predictions based on your data, as accurate as they are, but you can sort of compare your outcome of your analytics with measurements that you do in the city. And that's really a new, nice thing. And with the upcoming of the AI, for example, AI modeling, you see that you can also use new ways of predicting data where you tie in real-time data and static data at the same time, but also across the domains. So you get more clarity and more confidence in the outcome of your models, because on the one hand you predict it, on the other hand you have real-time data, and somehow this real-time data will catch up with your predictions so that you can sort of steer also your modeling. And that's really a new thing, and that's what we are aiming at for the coming 5 years, as I foresee.
That's so great. Yeah, and Paolo? Yeah.
To that. So since I sit in the ICT unit itself, I work with a lot of the other domains themselves, right? So That's why we're also working on this digital twin program, because we're noticing you can learn a lot from the different types of digital twins that are being built, and they're built very differently, but there are many commonalities that we find very valuable. So what we do notice is when it comes to the quality of the data, the trustworthiness of the data, you can actually in some ways engineer this. It's done with system engineering. You engineer which data you use and how you use it, but from the ICT side, you can also talk about a traceability monitoring system to understand where the data originates, why it originates, who it belongs to, so that when you use and you make a decision, it's the decision maker's prerogative as to how much to trust that data. And then you can construct something rather than hope that something is provided and trustworthy. So we talk about data quality assurance topics, but also the traceability aspects, not just for the data, but the models and the models they flow through, knowing the versioning of these types of topics, or these types of process flows. So that's how we typically think of it from the ICT side. Yeah.
Okay, great. So validating the data from the censoring outside, and also validating the data, at least ranking the trustworthiness of that. You already had a lot of questions to the audience. Let's, because we're going to move on to Wietse. One last question you would like to post for this group of people?
I can say something very short. So I think it also relates to something you mentioned before, because I wrote it down, that it's more about relating to the decision makers. What do they currently do to help decision makers understand what data they're actually using? What are the sources? I don't know how complex those chains are, but that would be the question that I put, sort of an open question. Yeah, maybe Walter has a different one. Or...
Let's see if something comes up in the chat. Great. We move to Wietse Balster from the City of Amsterdam. And thank you so much, Walter and Paolo. And we go back to our own city again, to Walter Balster. I believe it was more than a year ago. We already also had the City of Amsterdam with the digital twin here with lots of questions. And you're going to talk again, not about the specifics of the data, but about the governance side of it. So please take us along, and thank you so much for joining us. Walter.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonie. Good afternoon, or maybe good morning, because this is recorded, or maybe even good night. We don't know when viewers are watching this. Already the first dilemma, I guess. Let's talk about digital twin. There's a lot of definitions about this digital twinning. I don't go into that. I guess everybody has his own definition, but there's a lot of variety in digital twinning, from tomato plants to whole cities, from cars to human body parts. And I think the one thing they do have in common is that they all come in blue. So that's why I made the slides in blue for this presentation. My name is Wietse Balster, working in the government for probably 13 years already. Working now the last 2 years on a digital twin, or rather, I would say, a city model of the city. But because this is a digital twin dilemma, I just say we're working on the digital twin. It's different than Gothenburg or Rotterdam, because we make it open to the audience. We have a public website. That's why I share this screen with you. It's all visible for everybody on 3damsterdam.nl. And therefore, there's also a lot more dilemmas. And I want to take you all into those dilemmas. The way I see it, there's two kinds of dilemmas. You have the more theoretical dilemmas and the more practical dilemmas. Theoretical is more the thinking process, like the data principles. I think we're all familiar with them right now. The how and the open data. These are questions you can think of before you start to build. But because this is a good opportunity to discuss about the practical principles. Once you decided you want to make a digital twin, what will come, what will rise, what questions will rise? And there's many. I focus on just 3 questions, and I think it's very nice in the discussion later. We can go into this as well. But yeah, what will you begin with? And who's the mayor, who's the owner of the digital twin, especially when talking about digital twins of whole cities? And we discover also questions about visualization issues. So very practical, and again, I'd like to go into that. The first, what's first? What's to develop? Especially in Amsterdam, there's a lot of stakeholders, and everybody wants something with digital twinning because the term is quite hot. So should we just go with the low-hanging fruit? Starts with what's already there. Maybe you already have some data available, or maybe you also have some experience on certain digital twinning issues. So that's I think a good start. Just start which is already there, and then also there to make decisions. It doesn't matter if there's wrong decisions, but as long as you learn from them. Quite obvious, but if you make decisions, we had, for example, one in the beginning. Gothenburg has some very beautiful visualizations. They did it with Unreal Engine. We also wanted to use gaming engines, but we choose the other one, Unity engine. It's a decision. If it's good or bad, I don't know. We cannot tell, but just make a decision to start already with making digital twinning. And then again, who's to serve first? We take the approach first come, first serve. And we do it with a reason, because you can show something already. You can start, you can learn, you can experience, and learning from doing is one of the many heard principles. You can do that if you start with the ones who come first. And in my case, or in our case for 3D Amsterdam project, that's really the urban planning department. Really, really help them with their questions. And it's a good start because it's also quite visible to the audience. Once you do that, you can expand, you can sell yourself, you can seduce others with nice views, nice topics, nice digital twin topics, as long as you have a strategy. And I think that's very important. Along the way, when you're working on digital twinning, you should already have in mind that it's all puzzle pieces which should fit together eventually. So make it modular. I think in Rotterdam they're using the metaphor of Lego bricks. It's all connecting, or it's all possible to connect them together. I think that's one very big thing to keep in mind. The second dilemma, it's also very practical for us, because once we started building this digital twin or city model of Amsterdam, everybody came to us and, oh, we want this, but nobody has the money to do it. But we have to choose. And one big reason is we have to choose who's our mayor in the beginning. But then we come to the conclusion, why is there only one mayor? Why is there only one person or one department who's saying, hey, this is going to be developed? Because on the other department, they start their own developments. So maybe we should see digital twinning more as an ecosystem of all different digital twins on special on their own parts, and then we can mix them together. And then again, the strategy, like the puzzle, it should work together. So there should be somebody or something, or maybe a club of people or a club of organizations, maybe public, private, corporation, that the government should maybe act as a facilitator only, and not really the developer of a digital twin. So that will cause cooperation instead of fighting each other. Of like Rotterdam has this digital twin and we're doing it this way. Maybe Groningen is now doing a digital twin on their way. Maybe Copenhagen or Gothenburg is doing it on another way. It shouldn't be a fight of who has the biggest or the nicest digital twin. It should be a matter of cooperating and sharing those functionalities where you can do nice things for the audience or for ourselves in a digital twin. And then even a more practical dilemma, and this is what we came across 3 weeks ago. We wanted to go underground because we believe the underground is really a part of the digital twin of a city model. I saw a nice discussion I think last week in LinkedIn about this topic, and I think 99% of all people there who said it should be a part of the digital twin, the underground. But then again, in a very practical way, how should we visualize the sewer systems? For example, this is the example of 3D Amsterdam. We included the sewer system, but how should you visualize them? There's a lot of standards, industrial standards, to visualize them in 2D programs. But like us, we make a public tool available. We show the digital twin on the internet for everybody, both the expert but also the non-experts. So it's really important to have a discussion on how would you show the data, and in this case the subsurface and the sewer system. You can use the pipeline color in data applications which experts use, but that doesn't show, that doesn't match, that doesn't look nice in a 3D digital twin of the city. So those are really practical dilemmas which we're facing now by doing all the work and building those digital twinning. So those are questions I really like to talk into in a couple of minutes, I guess, because we want to learn from you as well, from your insights. So that's why, I put these up in this presentation, in this 10 minutes chance to talk with you. That's it. Very short. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wietse. I'm sorry, I'm still reading your last slide. In case I don't see here. Oh, now it's gone.
Oh, sorry. It's from the Truman Show. I'll try to show.
Can you read it again?
Yeah. I have to get into the... I'll show it in a bit. Sorry.
That's great. So thank you. Your talk and your insights on how to build, the strategy you take, and how Tada has helped you to make some decisions on the forefront. But then even when you go to work, you stumble across all these practical dilemmas about who's the mayor. And I was thinking maybe you want to have some aldermen and maybe some voters within the system. So how do you cooperate? Huh? So this was one of the questions you had. I will not have answers for you about that. The audience might have. And you also talked about the differences between cities. So what are you doing? And then I'm going to go to the Q&A. How do you work at this point of time with other cities in the Netherlands or worldwide even to explore and combine your learnings? And why is this so important?
Yeah, we have a lot of contacts, especially with Rotterdam and The Hague. We have a national project together. And it's more about use cases and the obtaining data and the registration of data. So we make sure we use the same type of data so we can make functionalities on our platform Unity. It can be another one, but sharing those functionalities will be the key to cooperate together, not only in between governments, but also with the private companies. And I think that's the biggest key to cooperate together. And that's why, that's the main topic in those discussions with other cities. How can we make, because we have the same questions, how can we make tools that can be applied to the systems we use in Amsterdam, but also to the systems in Rotterdam or The Hague or Groningen or maybe even international. So that's one of the biggest discussion points.
Yeah. Well, we from Amsterdam Smart City, of course, our sharing platform as well. And you mentioned, that will be my last question for you. You also mentioned some sort of competition between cities to wanting to be better. I've learned once that competition might improve your performance when it's not a competing wrong competition. But how do you feel it? Are you really helping each other, or are you withholding information to be better? Or what should we do?
Of course, the first one, helping each other out. Yeah, it shouldn't be a boxing match. It should.
Do you really explore this constructive competition?
We do we do actually. By doing so in the new project, the nationwide project 3D no, totally 3D. Sorry about the translation. Totaal driedimensionaal. It's a big project, corporation, and we especially think of these questions and how to address them.
And what's the key point for you to come into this constructive way? What helps?
Finding the same use cases, and then technologies would follow, and not the other way around.
Okay, great. Let's move. Thank you, speakers, so much for your insights and your questions. I'm going to move to Cornelia, who has been reading the chat, and she will take us through the Q&A now. So Cornelia, it's yours.
Great, yes, so there's quite a few questions coming in, and there's already some answers as well, so that's great. And there's some questions that are more focused on really the data and the more technical element, and some that are more focused on, let's say, stakeholders and collaboration. And maybe before I get to the questions, I thought it was just good to let the speakers maybe respond to some of the questions or statements that were made by now. Maybe if there's anyone of you that would like to already give a reflection or an answer that you think is most important until now. Eric, maybe you would like to start?
Yeah, I haven't seen the questions in the chat, but I'm going to like to, as Wietse talked about collaboration in Netherlands, it's also very important with collaboration between our countries in the European Union and so on. Actually, we visited Wietse and the guys in Amsterdam 1.5 years ago, and it was very interesting. I think you're very skilled in what you do, and I think we have very much to learn from each other. Perhaps you can learn something from us as well. So I think you talk about collaboration. I think that's very important, that you can share our results, share our ideas, and user case stories and so on. So I just want to mention that I think collaboration is a key factor.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. So maybe then I'm just going to choose some of the questions, especially the ones which have extra likes. So for Wietse, there's a question about who owns the twins, the models and the data.
It's a good question. We're making the model publicly available in GitHub. So we make it, but the ownership is everybody's, I guess. The data we derive from open data sources. So there's no data for now. Maybe it's going to be different in a couple of years or a couple of months, maybe. But the data is all open. We just disclose them in our digital twin.
And maybe Eric, would you like to comment on the same question? Who owns the twin and the model and the data in the Gothenburg situation?
Yes, of course. Our model is not yet open data, but I think it's going to be in some years. We have a lot of open geodata in the municipality, but not this kind of 3D model JS data yet. All the data in our forthcoming digital twin is from our different departments. So we read the data from the source and create this kind of geometries, 3D geometries. So we don't store data from in a new specific database for digital twin. We read the data if we can from the source. So there's different departments and companies within the city of Gothenburg which holds the data.
Okay, and I see a hand from Paolo. Paolo, would you like to respond as well?
Yes, I would add to this comment. So I asked the question, and I think I might have alluded to it before, and I think it ties to the questions that I'm posing, and it's all about ownership. And when I think of ownership, I think of, I'm noticing again, the collaborations, the growth of models, because when I look at it from the IT perspective, I think, okay, you can build a digital twin of sorts, the basic components of it, but as new models are developed by new stakeholders, whether if it's a city that owns it and makes it publicly available, the same with data, how does one manage all of that? And I'm wondering, because that's the theme I see through this, because that's also by us very prevalent in every single domain. And when it becomes cross-domain efforts, it's about interfacing. It's about making sure that you can do something in the future, not knowing what you're going to have to do. It's about requirements analysis. So again, I'm making it more about the IT aspects, but it ties to the same for models as for data. And I find this very interesting. That's why I asked it. I think it's good to think about who owns, because when you know, the comment about what Vitsa, when you're saying that there are different cities that compete, maybe they shouldn't be competing, they must combine. And maybe, Walter, you wanted to talk about this initiative that we have now with TNOs involved in this multi-city project, where they're together trying to do something. So it's about ownership to me. Maybe, Walter, you can.
You mean the European project?
Exactly.
Yeah, we're working on a European project called Digital Urban European Twins, which actually started this year. It's a year ongoing, and it's all about that. It's all cities and parties, partners across Europe, all with the same question: what digital twin? And then because it's not always clear what you should do, and there are many aspects, many dilemmas actually. Data, but the security, who owns the data, who can access the data? If you bring it all together, can you relate it to something else which is not GDPR compliant or whatever? What about performance? What about the amount of data? What about exchange of data? What about if you have information that is derived from models that act upon raw data and give you new data? How do you deal with all that, and how you keep that in line? That's actually the total set of dilemmas. And at TNO, at the ICT level and at the stuff that we work on, you say, okay, well, you need at least something that is scalable into the future. We have to build the sim city of the future, but then with real data, a real city data.
Walter, maybe as a follow-up question to what you were saying, is there a sort of formalized process for building a digital twin? So if you're a smaller city without so many resources, is there an easy cookbook or a 3-step process for getting yourself a digital twin?
Well, it depends a bit on what kind of digital twin you want, of course. If you ask a random person, they would probably say, well, first get the data and then we'll see. But that's not really an acceptable answer. I think the European project aims at to give you an architecture which allows you easily to attach with your data and your modeling for a specific use case. And then the architecture doesn't sort of limit you to the use case. That's a challenge by itself, but that's more how it works. And the second thing is that we use state-of-the-art technology in order to keep it all scalable. That means that you have to, and I refer to something that the person, Tabia Sonnes, I cannot read my handwriting, wrote about sub-modeling and tying it all to a same system. That's something that you should be very aware of when you design new technology for digital twin, that you are sort of allowed to join later or make it bigger by joining multiple sector-like stuff, so that you don't get silos all across the different domains, but that you have an integral system where you can sort of join whenever you like. And then when you have a use case, that's always nice if you have a use case, that you just select the parts, the building blocks that you need, and that the system facilitates you to build the specific digital twin that you have need for at that time.
Okay, great. That's very interesting that this information is made available for this European project. What's the timeline for this project?
Well, in fact, it's a 3-year project. 1 year is gone, and an alpha version is 2 weeks ago released, and there will be closed beta for next year, I think. But it will all be, exactly these dilemmas will be discussed there, and that's why we are also interested and thankful for that we could join, as TNO, this roadshow, because it's that we have to learn from each other what we understand a digital twin is all about, and then we should not build something on the one hand that is limiting only for a specific use case. It should be generic enough so that we can sort of have 1 + 1 = 3 instead of 2. That we have synergy in building these digital twin technology.
Okay, great. There was also a comment and question from Manon, and I believe that was for Eric, but anyone else would like to jump in on the question of cyber risks. So the risk of manipulating and spoofing of sensor data, for example, and the impact that has also in the way I think citizens might use the digital twin. Is there somebody who would like to comment on the cybersecurity discussion very briefly without getting too technical about it? I see a Paolo's hand, please.
I can comment on it briefly. We also have a cybersecurity robustness department in the ICT unit, and they focus a lot on this. And we also see a lot of synergy between what is being done currently for the digital twins of smart cities and how we look at how you can deal with cybersecurity concerns. And I think it also has to do with thinking about the security operations centers that you would typically have, that you have to monitor. And you can quite often, as Walter was showing, you've got a traffic model, you've got an air pollution or air model, you've got different kinds of models, and then you can also integrate models for security purposes. And I think that's how one can try and think of it, but you're just as good as the knowledge you have and the knowledge you can learn. And I think that's all you have. Yeah.
Okay. And there was also a question from Nick, I believe. So you should break down a city digital twin based on the service area, for example, transit, buildings.
Cornelia, I'm sorry, Eric raised his hand as well.
Oh, sorry, Eric, I missed your hand. Please go ahead.
I would like to just one comment about security data. I think it all depends on what the digital twin is, the definition of it. Perhaps you can see the digital twin as a master twin, like the web when everything is connected. But I think our view of a digital twin is perhaps multiple twins that are going to be used in different purposes. And that's the municipality, in case we are delivering, you could say, a 3D map, which you can add layers and different themes on, which solves different issues and different questions. So if you are interested in water supply and so on, see what's under the city, perhaps it could be protected data, but you can use it for that instance, and it could be perhaps not open data when you use it in that way. And of course, you can use a digital twin in many ways. Different stakeholders can use it in many ways. And I think it's important to see what is a digital twin before you ask the question. I think it could be multiple twins, perhaps hundreds or thousands of digital twins that use our information as a base. And information like from buildings and streets are used in the standard ways with keys so that you can connect the information with other information, sensors, IoT, and so on. So I think it depends on the definition, I would say.
And maybe as a follow-up to that, maybe for Vitsa, you mentioned earlier that you don't typically talk about digital twins. You call it a 3D model. Maybe can you clarify why you stray away from the digital twin label?
Yeah, especially because what Eric explained, what's the definition of a digital twin? Maybe in 10 years we can come to a digital twin already, but for now I think it's too hard to call a city model, like with so many involved. A digital twin already, the example of a tomato plant, I think that's probably a small object which you can transform into a digital twin, but the city is so complex. It's like an ecosystem. So that's why I rather not talk about the digital twin of a city. It's more the dilemma. It's a hype. I think that's the topic of today. Maybe the digital twin of a city model is still just a hype because it's a nice commercial talk about digital twinning. So that's the reason I rather talk about the city model. For now. Maybe I change my mind in 2 years, hopefully.
I agree with Vitsa.
Would you like to respond as well?
I would like to complement that, meaning I understand what is being said because we noticed that as well. The hype of the term, when we use it, we use the word term digital twin, but we also think of it as advanced digitization, because you can have different levels of this. And what I also noticed in Eric, in your presentation, you in one of the architectures you drew, or one of the diagrams, you said digital twin of the city, and that was, I think it was the simulation model. I can't remember what I wrote it down somewhere, but the idea is that the simulation model, or a model on its own, is just a model, just like data is data. And I think we look at it as a paradigm, digital twin, where you think of, you're taking knowledge in the form of models, whether it's AI, meaning you don't know a lot, but you can learn a lot about the system, or actual expert knowledge models that you take and you bring it close to an operational process. So the data itself is synchronized with that, so you can observe something. There's also analytics if you want to do something with it, so it ties to a purpose. That purpose ties to a process, because people, it's a real life process. So there are the three components of this paradigm, where you have new technologies in computing, engineering, and management paradigms and practices that are all combined. And you can, of course, have something very complicated and something very simple. So having that in mind, we steer away from the exact definition. So when you say, it's a model, yes, it is a model. And sometimes you can synchronize it to a certain level, and it just becomes more advanced towards digital twinning in digitization. It's a very loose term we use, because it is a buzzword. People are using it a lot, but we try and make it concrete by saying what we're focusing on. And we're focusing on digital twin of smart cities. When you start speaking of digital twins of buildings, and you say digital twin of energy systems, and combining that, it's that's why from the IT perspective it becomes more abstract, or we can talk about it more abstractly. Yeah.
Okay. That's, I think, a very interesting point, a lot of food for thought. And I think it also relates to one of the comments that I see about the dilemma really being about, so making generalized models of cities to share knowledge on the underlying processes and interactions, rather than perfectly fitting the model, let's say, or the digital twin to the specific city. So it's really much more about the use case. But I think I'm going to have to pass it back to Leonie at the moment, because I think we have to wrap it up. Is that right, Leonie?
Yeah, that's good. And we're gonna thank you so much, Cornelia, and thank you all for joining the discussion with sometimes a question, sometimes an answer in the chat, and to the panel. And let's have a calm wrap up towards the end of the day, towards the end of the year. We've talked a lot about the adaptability, the dilemmas, how to use data, how to understand data. And Tino, you already, and Amsterdam and in Gothenburg, you all mentioned this is about creating better cities. And when we want to create better cities, we do this not for the building, but for the people using the cities, be it the citizen or the visitor. So I have one question for you all, and would like you to address it one by one. As a final wrap up, this is about how can this digital twinning help governments and agencies to have a better contact with citizens about planning processes. How are you going to use it? And I'm going to start, I saw you already nodding, Eric, so I believe you totally understood my question. So how would you like to use this with your citizens? And one final comment or advice for the audience, and then I'll go back to the other speakers. Eric.
Thank you. I think that's one of the main purposes, and the one main reason that we started this work, to make the citizens involved in our urban planning processes. We actually made an application in 2012 called Min Stad, for my city, which actually also was a 3D model which you can fly over. And the citizens had the possibility to make suggestions by urban planning. So I think it's a very interesting scope to make this kind of models transparent to the community, so that you can understand the urban planning process, because it could be sometimes quite complex. And the city is a complex organism, so to understand everything and in time, when are we going to do different things, when are this plan going to be built and so on. So I think that's one of the main purposes for us to make in this digital twin effort, inviting the citizens for having ideas about urban planning. So I think it's a very interesting question you asked, and for us it's very important.
Okay, and let me help Nancy help me to make this final remark later about the Digital Society School. But thank you so much, Eric, Walter, and Paola from TNO, how to use these models to have a better talk with citizens about urban planning. What would your advice be?
I'm going to let Walter answer that because I'm ICT. I usually ask for the requirements and then I think of the system. So Walter, please go.
Okay, well, it's all about involvement. It's what Eric also mentions. People like to be involved in the process, and there's a lot happening. And in fact, also we like people to contribute their data. So you have to sort of take them with you or take them along with what on the governance level you would like to do. If you're planning new housing or living areas and stuff like that, and take decisions where to put a sound screen or where to put green or whatever, they would like to know. It's like people are getting more and more connected. They use their smart devices to see if it's going to rain in the next 5 minutes. And now with this digital twinning, we can also show them if they could better go by bike because of the air pollution, or they have a mixed route, go by bike and bus instead of going by car because of traffic jams and stuff like that. So we can use the data of the citizens themselves, but we can also with this data help. As an individual, we can help the community by giving back the data or information that they request, and they can request it as on demand from their digital twin. We don't have to spam them with all the data. They can just request their data. And I think that's the direction it will go, especially also with the real-time data. And people will just get more confidence in that decisions are made more clearly, or maybe not, but at least they know more about it then.
Okay, great. So it will help them to get a better understanding of how the city can change, what to do and what not. The final words for you, Wietse. You already, you opened the digital twin. It's an open process. How do we get, for example, if we have this urban planning of a new city area, let's say Havenstad, how will a digital twin help to create a better understanding of new planning and how to involve citizens? Your final remarks on that.
Yeah, I agree already with Walter and Jan, but I think participation and communication are the main goals, like the visualization of a city, and not only the city as of now, but also the new urban plans, to show that is really insightful, and especially if you can experience it from your own perspective. And I think that's a key thing, that it's not like in a God mode you see a city, but really sit on your balcony, experience the new building which is going to be built in 2 years from now. It's not only just a plan made by the architect, but it's already there. You can already have features to see the effect on the sun on your balcony. I talked about it 1.5 years ago, but I think that's the key thing. Let the people from their own perspective experience the city and what's going on in the city and what's going to happen in the future with the city.
Great, thank you so much. What a great remarks, like on the end, because we dedicated so much time on the dilemmas and the obstacles around digital twins, which was really great and very important to do because we need to solve them. But I really wanted to end this hopeful and meaningful closing remarks of you all, because in the end it's about helping citizens and urban planners alike to have a sort of foreseeable future, to experience how the city might change and what to do and what not. So this could really truly be one of the benefits of this costly, complicated development of, this digital twins. So that's really great. I would like to thank the audience for staying with us. We have not everyone here still, but quite a lot of group of people. And again, lots of thanks for Eric, Wietse, Paolo, and Walter, and Cornelia, of course, for the excellent Q&A. And I wish you all very safe times, happy times, and I hope to have a meeting. Again, I forgot the Digital City. She said many times, and I asked her, please do remind me. I wish you a very good, happy holidays. But one final remark. One of our partners, the Digital Society School, is starting a track on digital twins. They will have lots of trainees available, and they want to help you out exploring the dilemmas, the obstacles, and solving them. So if you have any challenge within your organization and you would like to be supported, please go to our website, go to us, or go to the website directly of the Digital Society School, and we will connect you and they can help. I believe now I have been complete. And again, stay safe, stay as happy as possible in these challenging times, and stay connected. And it was truly an honor to have you all here. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Dara, for this great opening and ending.
Well, thank you very much, Leonie, Eric, Wietse, Paolo, Walter, Cornelia, Jeroen, and Nancy for this presentation. And looking at all the interaction, I really believe this is a subject that a lot of people are interested in. So hopefully we can follow this up next year. On our side, Janet, Nicole, Iris, and myself, we will continue to program new interesting subjects for 2021 on our Meetup website. So please check it out. And during the next weeks, you will see what we have in store for January. For now, happy holidays. Thank you. Good night. And see you next year. Bye-bye.
Thank you.